C'est qui donne le cul? Bon, allez, on part. Il y a 5 ans ici avait lieu un attentat.
5 years ago, here a terrorist and Islamophobic attack took place. It is to exercise our duty of memory to take stock of the last 5 years and to move forward together that we meet once again. Welcome to the 5th Citizen Commemoration of the January 29, 2017 attack on the Grand Mosque of Quebec. I am Mariam Besseri, Kwe. My name is Sophie Marois. Salam alaikum. We are from the group Collectif Citoyen 29 Janvier, I remember. For those joining us in English, good evening. We gathered together tonight to offer our sympathies with the families and loved ones, to the victims, the injured, the survivors, and all of those affected by the tragedy of January 29, 2017. 5 years later, we keep their memory alive, for not only for the sake of remembrance, but also for the sake of duty to act. We are gathered because we want to build an inclusive society, strong in its diversity, and ready to commit to a better world in which our children can grow up together in peace. Just like last year, we are gathered virtually. The challenges we are going through because of the pandemic, the loneliness and the uncertainties remind us all the more of the need to maintain solidarity and to strengthen the links between all communities. It is in kindness and resilience that we come together from a distance, but always united. As you can see, we are near the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City and the memorial that was built in memory of the victims here in Quebec City. We are currently in Nyon-Wencio, the traditional Huron-Wendat territory. We would like to begin by welcoming Ms. Edith Picard, elder of the Huron-Wendat Nation. Kwe, good evening. I am honored for the trust of the Council of my nation that has given me the mandate as an elder, the responsibility to welcome you all here on our territory, Nyon-Wencio, this territory, ancestral land, traditional land of the Huron-Wendat Nation. This evening, we commemorate the emergence of internal strengths of people of your community, supported by the mobilization, the collaboration, and the support of the population. May kindness, serenity, and a sense of peace be with us. Thank you, Ms. Picard. Without further ado, let's give the floor now to Mr. Boufelja Belabdallah, who joins us on behalf of the President of the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City, Mr. Lukili. Today, I was asked to say a few words on behalf of the President of the Islamic Cultural Center. And unfortunately, he has COVID, so he is not attending. And so we are facing these challenges, and we cannot gather with that gentleman. And just like for other people during the pandemic that were not able to see their loved ones, and they were not able to see their loved ones next to them even when they left this world. But I'm sure that we're going to find solutions together in order to make it together. That's how the society operates. Mr. Premier, thank you so much for being here in order to honor us this evening, to remind us this moment. This is a moment in time that is going to unite us once again. You are the leader of the province of Quebec. You have a responsibility, and your words are important. When you say something, this is important, and we wish that everything you're going to say is going to be harmonious. That being said, since the Premier has honored us this evening, my thoughts and yours as well, as you know, our thoughts go towards those that left us. Our thoughts are also for those that still remain here, the wounded, the survivors, and those that have been affected psychologically. They have challenges, but the whole society has been in shock, and we are witness of this gratitude, of this empathy of the population that really has given something good, even in challenging times, and the population continues to support us. I have been working during the municipal elections when I was in the opposite party, and today you are not my opponent anymore. So I've been knocking doors in order to ask citizens for their support. I've always seen people smiling. How are you, Mr. Benavla? How is your community? This is what they always do. How is your community? What does that mean? It means that this society is very generous, but there's always this minority which is there, and that we would like this minority to change its mind. We wish together, all together, united in harmony. Mr. Grand Chief of the Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador, thank you so much for your attendance. You have welcomed us on your land. As Ms. Picard said, she has blessed us. Mr. Duclos, you are well known in Quebec, and now you are health minister. So you have so much weight on your shoulders that this country is going to exit this pandemic. But beyond the pandemic, he was always supporting us. Thank you so much, Mr. Duclos, for always supporting us. And today you are next to the Premier of Quebec, Mr. the Mayor. You are a new player. This is like in football, right? Or soccer. He was qualified by the population. He was supported. Kudos. Welcome on this arena where big decisions are made. We count on you to ensure that this city is going to be a city where people can live and prosper. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bruno Marchand. The representative of the family from London went from so far away to support us, to provide a testimony, and we are also going to support them. We're going to ask them or her or that person to bring back something to the family. But it's not only in London, it's also in Dawson. At the Polytechnique, many people have been wounded. We wish to have a thought for each of these people and everybody that has lost someone during this COVID pandemic. Everybody that's gathered here on this floor, We are thinking of everybody that is facing challenges. We are here not only to talk about challenges, but to talk about what we're going to do tomorrow. What can we do tomorrow? Once we will have heard the words of each and every one, we have to do something, and we have to do one single thing. We need to make sure we have a society where it is good to live, a harmonious society. This is my message today. I wish to thank each and every one of you attending this evening. Some people came from Montreal. Ms. Anglade is here. My friend Bendaya, they came from Montreal and even from further away, Monsef. These people that decided to come to support us in order to show their empathy in this situation. But in the Islamic religion, just like in many other religions, when we face challenges, this is when the best ideas are born to gather people. I was hearing the philosopher Taylor saying that the Quebec society is a society that lives in solidarity. People are working in solidarity whenever they face issues and problems. They are ready to support each other, whomever is the person. And when people are joyful, yes, they are extremely joyful. This is what I wish for our society. Let me conclude. Salam alaikum. Now let's welcome Imad Mohamed Wad. He is going to say a few words of the Quran. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone. I am going to read a few words of the Quran, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العظيم. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you very much, everybody. So this was our Imam, as you know, when he got here to Quebec City, he only knew one or two words, two or three words in French. And today, he does his discourses, his speeches in French. This is amazing. He has already two languages in his heart, French and the language of the Quran, in the city that welcomed him. Thank you. This is always very emotional in this ceremony of commemoration. Now let's take a moment in order to honor the memory of our brothers that we have lost. Please, let's take 1 minute of silence. Ibrahima Bari, Mamadou Tanou Bari, Khaled Belkacemi, Abdelkrim Hassan, Azzedine Soufiane, Abu Bakr Tabti.
Nos prochains invités.
And our next guest, they were there on that dark evening on January 29, 2017, and they have agreed to speak on behalf of the survivors and the injured. First, we would like to invite Mr. Mohamed Hafid, survivor of the attack.
Bonjour tout le monde. Salam.
Good evening, everybody. Salam alaikum. May peace be with you, first of all. I would like, on behalf of families and the victims of the tragedy of January 29, 2017, to thank you. Thank you all for your attendance. I want to specifically thank all of the organizers and volunteers for their continuous support that has allowed us to gather together in order to have this event, which is going to be very rich all along this week in this schedule. So we have gathered for this commemoration, which is following a very sad event. And we have lost some of our loved ones due to this terrorist attack. Every year at this sad anniversary, we remember that event and we wonder throughout these commemorative events how we can work all together in order to fight and eradicate Islamophobia and all kinds of racism and xenophobia in our society, to make sure that this is never going to be repeated in our home. For all of the experts that have been talked during these commemorative events this week, all of them are unanimous. Unfortunately, racism and Islamophobia still exist in our society. In order to fight against this, we have to unite our strengths. Each and every one of us, politicians, journalists, stakeholders of the civil society, writers, comedians, every citizen must unite. Everyone in their own environment, their own family. We can all do so much in order to live together, denouncing all types of violence, whatever the motivations, whether religious, ideological, or racial, identity, or racialist. We need to make sure that we will avoid words of racism, all kinds of racism stereotypes on or about Quebecers or Muslims. This is our duty for everybody that wishes to build and to transmit to the future generations, our children and the future generations, an inclusive Quebec and Canada, so that we can be strong and proud. May God bless us. May God bless the martyrs. May God help the wounded. Amen. Thank you so much for your attendance. Once again, thank you for your support. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hafid. And now let's welcome Mr. Ayman Dabali. He is a survivor of the attack on the Mosque of Quebec City. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Salam alaikum. This evening, on January 29th, this is the commemoration of the 5th anniversary of this killing that occurred at the Grand Mosque of Quebec City. On that National Day of Commemoration of the attack on the Grand Mosque of Quebec City and Day of Action Against Islamophobia, we are united and we remember our friends that were killed a few minutes after the prayer. We want to ask God to accept them in His paradise and that God protects their families and children. We have to say it. This terrorist attack against the Great Mosque of Quebec City 5 years ago was the result of a long process of hatred and Islamophobia that occurred. This commemoration reminds us, first of all, our duty to remember our brothers that died under the bullets of hatred, so that this makes us remember. And we need to all unite, and we need to act out together so that such a drama will not be repeated, never again. On January 29th, which is the National Day of Commemoration of the attack on the Great Mosque of Quebec and the Day of Action Against Islamophobia, this should also be a day recognized in Quebec. The attack was an Islamophobic action. Of course, honoring the victims of this attack also forces us to fight against hatred, Islamophobia, which was the source of this terrible drama. Racism, discrimination, Islamophobia, and any other kind of discrimination, all of that does exist in our society of Quebec, but also all around the world. In order to fight in an efficient manner against these plagues, we need to have a real political will in Quebec. Hatred, discrimination, racism, and Islamophobia don't have a place in Quebec, neither in Canada. Each and every one of us should do its part in order to reduce the propagation of these plagues in our society. So, once again, we ask God, Allah, to accept the martyrs in His paradise so that all of the wounded will be healed as well. And we hope a better future for our children, a better society. without discrimination and without Islamophobia and again without racism. This is our duty. Each and every one of us should be aware as a citizen so that we should not tolerate discrimination, Islamophobia or racism. We have to denounce that, and we need to be aware citizens. I hope that our children will have a better future. And we also hope to live in a stronger and better country, a more united country. Thank you. Good evening. We wish to thank Mr. Eman Derbali. He always finds the right words in his testimony, just like every year. And now let's welcome Mr. Shambaz. He was wounded during the attack. He is a survivor of the attack in Quebec City. He is co-founder of Resilience Canada. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this ceremony of commemoration of the 5th sad anniversary of the attack that has affected us all in Quebec City in this grand mosque. On the National Day Against Islamophobia, this is a date that neither victims, neither the Muslim community, neither the citizens of Quebec and Canada, that day will never be forgotten. That tragedy has killed 6 of our brothers, and there were also 5 wounded people, and one of them is our friend that is next to us. There were 40 survivors that have been deeply traumatized as well. As a survivor, as a witness of the attack inside of the mosque, we have seen moments of terror. But we had to make a choice. Either we forget it or we face this tragedy in order to learn from it. We have decided the second option. We wish to learn from it, and we wish to work for the good while supporting the victims of terrorism of Canada and around the world, either through NGOs or through our organization Resilience Canada 2017. So that we wish to promote living together against discrimination, against Islamophobia and racism in every shape and size. This way we were in touch with other people that were affected by similar tragedies, such as victims of the killing in the Parkland High School in Florida, the Pittsburgh synagogue attack in Pennsylvania, victims of the attack of both mosques in Christchurch in New Zealand, as well as the other attacks, such as in the city of London in Ontario. Our slogan is always the same. If we are wounded, we are wounded, but we all wish to heal together, whatever our religion, our belief, our skin of color, or our origins. We wish to be together. Terror doesn't have a religion, doesn't have a color of skin, doesn't have a country. Finally, we wish that we will have a better future for our future generations, and especially for the families of the victims. We pray Allah, that may Allah welcome them in paradise, so that we can all unite against Islamophobia and discrimination, against any type of discrimination here in Quebec. Finally, I wish to thank everyone that has contributed to this special commemoration. Thank you very much. We wish to thank Mr. Shambaz for his testimony. Thank you to the three of you for your testimonies, and this gives us great courage to go forward. Thank you. On June 6th, the lives of 4 members of a Muslim family were cut short, the family Afzad. They were cut short as they walked through their neighborhood in London, Ontario. In Quebec City, we know all too well the pain that has afflicted London since this Islamophobic attack. We now welcome Ms. Nusaiba Al-Azam, Vice President of the London Muslim Mosque.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone.
Al-Azam. I'm a staff lawyer at the National Council of Canadian Muslims and the Vice Chair of the London Muslim Mosque.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Mon nom est Nusaiba Al-Azam et je suis avocate.
Good evening. I am Nusaiba. I am lawyer at the National Council of Canadian Muslims, Vice President of the London Mosque.
Men left their homes to pray, and the next morning, 17 children woke up fatherless. I remember standing outside the steps of the London Muslim Mosque, where we held a vigil and heard politicians' passionate promises that day.
Il y a 5 ans, ces hommes ont quitté leur maison pour prier et le lendemain matin, 17 enfants se sont réveillés dépourvus d'un père. Cette journée-là, je me rappelle me tenir devant les escaliers de la mosquée de London, où nous avons tenu une vigile et entendu les promesses remplies de passion des politiciens.
7 months ago, a family in my hometown took an evening stroll to escape the reality of COVID, only to confront the reality of Islamophobia. A child left orphaned. I remember once again standing outside those steps in mourning, once more hearing promises.
Il y a 7 mois, une famille est sortie faire une marche en soirée pour échapper à la réalité de la COVID, seulement pour se retrouver confronté à la réalité de l'islamophobie. Un enfant est laissé orphelin. Je me rappelle me tenir devant ces mêmes escaliers, à nouveau endeuillé, à nouveau à écouter des promesses.
When we commemorate the 5th year anniversary of the horrific events of January 29th, it's not because the Muslim community needs to remember. We live with the consequences of Islamophobia daily.
Lorsque nous commémorons le 5e anniversaire des horribles événements du 29 janvier, ce n'est pas pour que la communauté musulmane se souvienne. Nous vivons avec les conséquences de l'islamophobie quotidiennement.
We flinch when trucks speed by. We steel ourselves before walking into our places of worship. We feel unsafe in our own backyards. We brush off ignorant comment after ignorant comment after ignorant comment. We are overlooked for work opportunities and promotions, and in some places, we're unable to earn a living while wearing a hijab because the state allows it to be that way. We need no reminder. We are commemorating every day.
Nous sursautons lorsqu'un camion passe. Nous nous cuirassons avant d'entrer dans nos lieux de culte. Nous ne nous sentons pas en sécurité dans nos propres cours arrière. Nous balayons du revers de la main commentaires ignorants après commentaires ignorants après commentaires ignorants. Nous sommes laissés de côté lorsqu'il s'agit d'opportunités de travail ou de promotion, et à certains endroits, nous ne sommes pas en mesure de gagner notre vie tout en portant un hijab parce que l'État en a voulu ainsi. Nous n'avons pas besoin de nous le faire rappeler. Nous nous commémorons tous les jours.
What today is about is ensuring that the rest of the country doesn't forget.
Notre visée, aujourd'hui, est de nous assurer que le reste du pays n'oublie pas.
That we don't forget that it's our collective responsibility to stand up when we see something wrong, when hatred rears its ugly head, to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
Que nous n'oublions pas qu'il s'agit de notre responsabilité collective que de se lever devant l'injustice lorsque la haine montre son laid visage afin de protéger les minorités de la tyrannie de la majorité.
That we don't forget that a law regulating religious symbols impacts more than what people wear to work, it impacts belonging.
Que nous n'oublions pas qu'une loi visant à légiférer les symboles religieux a des répercussions plus grandes que les vêtements que l'on porte au travail. Elle a des répercussions sur le sentiment d'appartenance.
It means valuable and finite resources that could be used to better our communities are instead spent in courtrooms fighting for equal rights.
Trop de ressources précieuses et limitées qui pourraient servir à rendre nos communautés meilleures sont plutôt dépensées devant les tribunaux afin de se battre pour l'égalité de nos droits.
Harvard Law School has a verse of the Holy Quran and its words of justice art installation, a testament to humanity's yearning for justice and dignity across time and cultures. The verse is in the chapter of the woman, Surah An-Nisa, and it reads, "Stand firmly for justice as witnesses to Allah, even if it be against yourselves or your parents or your kin." It is about the power and the irrepressibility of justice.
La faculté de droit de Harvard a inclus un verset du Coran dans son installation d'art Words of Justice, un testament à l'humanité qui a soif d'équité et de dignité à travers le temps et les cultures. Le verset se trouve dans le chapitre Les femmes et se lit comme suit. Observez strictement la justice et soyez des témoins comme Allah l'ordonne, fût-ce contre vous-même, contre vos pères et mères et proches parents. Ce verset concerne le caractère puissant et irrépressible de la justice.
That is what we need to remember on this day of commemoration and action. Standing for justice means holding ourselves and those around us accountable. Ask yourself, what are you doing to promote justice and dignity for all?
C'est ce dont nous devons nous rappeler en cette journée de commémoration et d'action. Se lever pour la justice signifie de se tenir responsables, nous-mêmes et ceux qui nous entourent. Demandez-vous ce que vous faites pour promouvoir la justice et la dignité de toutes et de tous.
Because Islamophobia doesn't start with a man shooting at a mosque. It starts in the classroom, in the workplace, on the streets, at the dinner table, in the legislature.
Parce que l'islamophobie ne naît pas le jour où un homme ouvre le feu dans une mosquée. Elle commence en classe, dans le milieu de travail, dans les rues, à nos tables à manger et dans la législature.
How can we expect Muslims to feel protected in their mosques if they are not protected in the public sector? What are we each doing to uphold the promises made 5 years ago here and 7 months ago in London to never again invite another community to this podium?
Comment pouvons-nous nous attendre à ce que les musulmans et musulmanes se sentent protégés dans leur mosquée, alors qu'ils et elles ne sont pas protégés dans le secteur public? Que faisons-nous pour respecter les promesses que nous nous sommes faites ici même il y a 5 ans et à London il y a 7 mois, afin de ne jamais avoir à accueillir une autre communauté sur ce podium?
Once we answer that honestly, we will shift from the performative lip service we currently see to the transformative change we so desperately need.
Une fois que nous aurons su répondre à cette question de façon sincère, nous allons pouvoir cesser de nous contenter de paroles creuses et enfin nous tourner vers un changement transformateur dont nous avons tellement besoin.
Parce que, oui, je me souviens aujourd'hui, mais
Yes, I remember today, but we need to do more than remembering. We need to act right now. Thank you.
Merci,
Thank you, Ms. Alazem. Thanks for being with us tonight. Thanks to Melina Schall for the translation. I would like to say that Ayman is going to get in because it's very cold, but he is still with us. Years after the January 29th attack, we are entitled to ask ourselves, where do we stand in our collective struggle against racism and Islamophobia and the identitary extreme right? This year, citizens' commemoration is once again a call to the political class to recognize and act out. We wish to see more political action for a just and equal society where everyone is free to practice their faith and profession, no matter what color they are, the color of their skin, or how they choose to dress. A society where each and every one of us feels that we belong, that we are safe, and that we can fulfill our lives. A society where we don't have to put energy into debating the existence of racial profiling, systemic racism, or Islamophobia, or the violence against our Aboriginal sisters, Indigenous sisters and brothers. Together, let's honor the victims and their families. Let's build inclusive cities where everybody can live, grow, and flourish. Let's welcome the Mayor of the City of Quebec, Mr. Bruno Marchand. Good evening. My first words will be a recognition of the families of the wounded. Mr. Premier, thank you so much for your attendance. This is deeply appreciated. Dear guests, dear members of the community, dear elected members of the Municipal Council, and Mr. Firiwazan, well, this is the inclusion we wish to build. Dear citizens, Ibrahima, Mamadou, Khaled, Abdelkrib, Azedine, Abu Bakr. We had wished so much to avoid this tragedy. We would have liked to succeed to avoid this drama. That evening, 5 years ago, men, fathers, spouses, children, they died because of hatred, because of racism. Men similar to other men across Quebec and that we find also in Quebec City elsewhere. These people are not here anymore. These fathers that cannot look at their children again, they cannot participate anymore to important events of their lives. They cannot hold the hands of their spouse. They cannot be proud of their achievements with their colleagues. These men that cannot support their friends anymore. These good men, acknowledged by their peers due to their great contribution to the community, due to their generosity, their aspiration for their families. These aspirations, such as yours, mine, 6 of ours, we would have liked to avoid this dramatic situation, but we did not. We could not. We still have the memory. We can remember. We have the duty to remember these men that left too early, the duty to never forget of them, this duty to remember the survivors, the wounded that also faced this drama. We have the duty to be next to them and to support them. For the loved ones, families, friends, we have the duty to remember as well. You know, we need a community to make a man and a woman according to the Indigenous proverb, but we need a whole community to support a man that is wounded. I wish to tell you, each and every one of you, that the City of Quebec was and still is with you. We wish to support you. Our duty to remember doesn't stop there. The colleagues of these men, the first responders, the police officers, the employers of the city, the citizens, so many people were deeply touched. Many were affected by this tragedy on an evening in January. Many of them are still affected. Let's not forget of them either. We would have wished to avoid this drama, this darkness, but it was not the case. Our duty is to say never again. Our responsibility is to take the means to build an inclusive city so that nobody will be left behind, so that nobody will be forgotten of. It's too easy to see differences, to see in somebody else only a different person. Acting in this way is to expose oneself to the judgment of somebody else. We are always different of somebody else. We are different from each other, but if we focus on that, we will lose. We will never be enough unless we do it together. We need to act together. I would like to acknowledge the leaders of the Muslim community. It would be easy to be in anger and to oppose. These events almost imposed that, but you have been resisting year after year for 5 years. Despite that this was the most difficult path, you have decided peace, openness, and reconciliation. You have been acting as real men. And today, the path is easier because you have paved the way. My role and our role is to support each other. Let's keep denouncing racism every time that our city sees these remarks against our citizens. Quebec City is wealthy because of each and every citizen. There are so many stories. Quebec has progressed in the last 5 years. We still have to work together. Khalil Gibran says, nobody can reach the beginning of the day without going through the night. Let's keep walking together, hand on hand, so that together we will see the rising of the sun, so that together we can all see the sun rising in a new day. Thank you. We wish to thank Mr. Marchand, and now let's welcome Mr. Jean-Yves Duclos, Minister of Health of Canada and MP of the riding of Quebec. Good evening, everyone. Kwekwe. Salam alaikum. As some of you know, the Prime Minister Trudeau has to isolate himself after being exposed to COVID-19. He really wanted to be here with you this evening in person. And he wishes to tell all of you that his heart is with you. I am here with my friend and colleague, Joanne Lightbon, MP of this riding of Louisbourg, as well with my colleague, Rachel Ben-Dayan, on behalf of the Canadian government. The Prime Minister Trudeau invites us to deliver the following message. 5 years ago, the Muslim community of Quebec has been targeted by a terrorism action that was absolutely terrible. Time improves matters, we say, but for affected families, the pain is still there. Today, throughout the country, we remember those that have died. Khaled Belkacini, Azzeddine Sofia, Abdelkrim Hassan, Aboubakar Tabdi, Mamadou Tanou Barry, and Ibrahima Barry. We also think of Ayman Berbali and of others that were wounded. We think of the families, we remember of the loved ones, and we are here to support you.
The horrible attack in Quebec City, this wonderful city, 5 years ago. We also remember the Afzal family in London, Ontario, and we think of the surviving young boy, Fayez. We remember Mohamed Aslim Zafis, a volunteer who was killed outside of an Etobicoke mosque. These tragedies impact not only those they target, but our country as a whole. Quand des personnes sont visées par
When people are targeted by violence due to their religion, due to their skin color, or due to the way they dress their garment, Canadians are attacked. Our values such as openness, diversity, and freedom of religion are attacked. Let me tell you that never are we going hatred to intimidate us. Islamophobia and extremism will never be able to divide us. Our government will continue to act so that everybody will feel safe. That's why we have created the first Canadian strategy of fight against racism. This is why we have banned some weapons. This is why we're here to protect all of these centers for religion. We have so much to do, not only to prevent violence, but also to build stronger and more inclusive communities, because there is still racism even here in Quebec City, because there are still some Muslim people that don't feel included right here in Quebec City. When it comes to time to fight against intolerance, every action matters, from the part of governments, but also from the part of everybody as citizens. Together, we have the chance to share this country, this amazing country, and together we each have to do our share to make it even better. Let's do it for the sake of each and every one, but let's do it in the memory of Khaled, Asitim, Abdelkim, Abubakar, Mamadou, and Ibrahima. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Duclos. And now let's welcome the Premier of Quebec, Mr. François Legault. First, I would like to recognize Minister Duclos. I would like to recognize the federal MPs, the leader of the official opposition. I would like to recognize the leader of the First Nations, Mr. Picard, and the elder of the Huron-Wendat Nation, the mayor of Quebec City, Bruno, the imam of the Grand Mosque, the spokesperson of the Cultural Islamic Center, Mr. Ben Abdallah. I would like to recognize all the members and families of the victims and the organizing committee. These are my first words. I want to thank the organizing committee that allows this gathering this evening. On January 29th, unfortunately, this is a very special date in Quebec. I wanted to be here this evening in order to honor the memory of the victims of the attack on the Grand Mosque of Quebec 5 years ago. Was occurring in the core of our city, a horrible tragedy, something that has really placed Quebec in a shock. So last January 2017, a young man entered the mosque, and there were Quebecers inside, just like you and me. Quebecers, they just wanted to be in peace. But in the eyes of this young man, they had a defect. They were Muslims. That was their religion. These victims had a job, they had a house, they had friends, they had families. These victims had a community, like a second home, the cultural center, where they felt just like home, at home. And today, my thoughts are sent to the families of the victims. The years go by, but the pain is still there. I wish to say to the loved ones of the victims, no, Quebec has not forgotten you. Quebec will never forget of you. Since the beginning of the pandemic, many Quebecers have faced drama. They have lost a dear one due to the virus. This is tragic, but we say, to console ourselves, that the disease is also part of life. But what do you say to somebody who has lost a family member due to violence? These victims, for you, might have been a spouse, a father, a friend, but for us citizens, committed citizens, they are full members of our large Quebec family. They are full members. Their violent death has been a shock. And in the day that followed the drama, thousands of Quebecers have supported in solidarity. Thousands of Quebecers wanted to tell you We are here to support you 5 years after. Please allow me to repeat and reiterate the same words. We are with you. Quebec, yes, this is a nation that is proud of its identity, but this is a respectful nation. Quebec is a welcoming nation, an open nation. Our nation has been built facing challenges by going forward all together, and this is my message, the message that I would like you to remember, the importance of going forward together, the importance of never leaving anybody behind. I wish to say to the loved ones of the victims that the Quebec people is in solidarity with you. You are part of our family, of our collective destiny. Together, we will build the Quebec of tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Legault. It has been exactly 1 year since the National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia has been established. The existence of this day engages our responsibility, the responsibility of each and every one of us, not only to remember, but also to act at our own level and to demand strong and clear political actions. We cannot miss the opportunity to highlight the parallels with the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which exists since September 30th, 2021, to honor the victims and survivors of residential schools, the struggles of the Indigenous peoples, to Joyce Echaquan, to all Joyce Echaquans. This is why we remember January 29th, so that we can unite even more. Let's welcome Mr. Ghislain Picard, Chief of the Assembly of First Nations of Quebec and Labrador. Quay.
Chibuhogarat no. Kohogon gahagat chihok. Kohogon steino. Chimzid nano tis chitmage fresh. Bepehek kutaguyak. Bepehek kutuag ne chignan norute pedesta ponuta. Udewet tayan gahagat. Egon ze hoods te gatogot. Maakt ze ziepet ook. Jenny was het semroti mono. Nantem. Gestat. Uta weta di hono. Ze chiuga bustmako. Nebe behegje tutaguyak. De smaatsigana noro tege. Keimdahet. Goed siuzen. Bonsoir.
Good evening. I would like to recognize all of the dignitaries this evening. I would like to thank and acknowledge our sister from the nation Huron-Wendat that is with us this evening spiritually with her kind words. Five years ago, following the very sad event that gathers us this evening, the Muslim community turned towards the First Nations in order to get some support, some people that listen to them, trying to find some support following the very sad events that occurred. And they found people that supported them. They found people that listened to them. And this was not just by chance, because the Muslim community knew the challenges of the First Nations, not only in Quebec or in Canada, but also on the international stage. And they were right. We have also faced sad events, just like the Muslim community. And people still face challenges. We had this dire reminder in September 2020 when our sister of the Atikamekw Nation, Joyce Nishakwan, was found dead following insults. This is a reminder that has affected the whole Atikamekw Nation and all of the First Nations. At that point in time, we have said that we were going to do everything to fight against racism and discrimination, and we continue this collective struggle, and we will continue. Just like we saw here 5 years ago, hatred and racism don't know any borders. Let me say that this is a call out to everyone, whatever your origin. I would like to add the following. In what occurred after the death of our sister, when we looked at the circumstances of her death, in the conclusions, the person that looked at the situation, the person concluded that as a society we need to do everything to renew our social agreement as First Nations. And I coordinate the actions of the First Nations, so I take this commitment towards the Muslim community. You are going to find within us nations, First Nations, that work in solidarity. Thank you. And we are there to support you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Picard. So at every commemorative event, we also wish to give a voice to artists and militants. So to conclude this 5th commemorative event, now we welcome 2 slam poets of Quebec, Véronica Rioux and Sensei Ash. Véronica Rioux was national champion of slam poetry. She represented Quebec at the World Cup of Slam Poetry in 2020. Leslie Ash is in the hip-hop world, and together they have created a special poetry piece just for this evening. Let's listen to them. Good evening. We are gathered here today because others are gone forever. Their absence, a deafening silence, resonance from the last movement of a heart that will never beat again. An absence ringing out after unbearable noise. Where one suffering ends, so many other begin. Tonight, we grieve the death, and I'm forever ill at ease, facing the tragedy, pain and evil, a dark act, inconceivable scene. And know what else disturbs me? Along with each calamity, the everyday attacks, seeing fellow humans sowing the seeds of doubts and of distrust, born of an unraveling history of beliefs in a cross, suffering ever unsettling. I'll never understand the ones who just want to stay warm in slippers knit from stereotypes, convictions swaddled in cocoons of habit, false sense of security. But what's hiding behind this need for control, if not the fear of losing it? Where does fear come from? Why the weapons? And where do weapons come from? Alone, because the system cry for the thought that sparks the act, tears flowing on the marble. I'm distraught by the violence that grows in the minds. I'm distraught by the reason we are gathered here. Violence is a material expression from an immaterial source. To forget who holds the privilege in our egocentric system, we protect our values, our identity, water a garden of fear, plant perennial divisions. But I'm the daughter of a nation that never feared misnegation, digging and reeling in harmony with others, mixing and building to make our way forward. Kilometers and territories and encounters. Now, here we are. I'm still part of a community reinventing a vision of liberty, a progressive Quebec where, mark my words, inclusion and pride walk together in stride. Together, standing up with a fistful of anger together, one family, one nation, carved right into the cornerstone, in the heart of the memory. Is it the last time or the first? Protecting privilege, afraid to lose your status, your money, your rights. Afraid of the other. The other is me. Come together in unity. Caring for others is caring for self. Who'd deny that? Together, standing up with a fistful of love. Over this distance, we dance in our resemblance, find ways to live together, reach out hands toward tomorrow. Here we stand, a collective facing down adversity, absurdity. Against all odds, we are pushing hearts to beat together in unison. On rocky shores where fear crops up, let's stand up against silence, knock down closed doors to open up a space of togetherness and friendship. The flame is getting brighter and stronger. Can lives snuffed out start a new blaze? In 1,000 minds, show us the way like lighthouses. Thank you. Thank you. We are almost at the conclusion. Thank you, Miro, Veronica Rio, and Cynthia Ash. This commemoration is made possible thanks to the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec. And we wish to thank everybody that were involved in Quebec City since the last 5 years and all across Quebec City in Canada in the solidarity activities of January 29th. And living together and building together is a daily action. We wish to remind you the history of the Black people and also the week against racism later this year. Thank you for attending. Thank you for every participant. The recording will still be available on our social network. We invite you to share all of that. We invite you to think, to brainstorm, to follow us, to build something together so that this will never happen again.